But if you're wondering what on earth I was talking about at the start of the programme, let's just remind ourselves, shall we, about what Keir Starmer has recently said.
So on a Friday, I've been doing this for years, I will not do a work-related thing after 6 o'clock. Pretty well come what
Regardless.
may. Yeah.
I've got to say, of course, the Tories, you'd expect this, have been absolutely making hay with it. It's very quick off the mark with their social media responses to that. Let's have a little look at this. You can see this mock-up of a diary there. Well, you can see it if you've got a magnifying glass, quite frankly. But it goes on about it's factoring in a nap. It's factoring in him knocking off early at 6 o'clock and so on and so forth. And I've really got to say that there's a lot of people really making hay with this today. Zia Yusuf, you're a businessman and entrepreneur. What do you think to Keir Starmer, what he said about going home early, essentially, at 6 o'clock on a Friday?
I think ultimately, if you look at this objectively, what it actually just shows is poor judgment. More than anything else, to actually make that statement specifically about come what may and after 6 p.m. You know, if you're Prime Minister of this country, as it looks, odds on that he will be, the things that you would put in the come what may category for a British Prime Minister can be some very, very serious things. We obviously do have enemies out there. Listen, as somebody who has been an executive myself and as somebody who believes in reform, we do believe in family. I think executives, I think it is a good thing that they carve out some time in the week in order to spend time with family. I think this idea that you can work 24/7 for 5 years and make good executive decisions is obviously not the case. However, the real concern about this, I think, for me, is the lack of judgment in saying what he has said. And obviously judgment is something that is incredibly important in a Prime Minister.
What do you think to it?
I think it's just about one of the best things he's ever said. I don't work on Friday afternoons myself. I'm Jewish, I observe the Sabbath. So I clock off at 4 in winter, in summer at around 6. I don't work on Saturdays. The Sabbath day is absolutely sacred to me. There's got to be a day a week you don't work, whoever you are. Sensible comment. And it's pathetic. The Conservative response is completely pathetic.
Morris, come off it. You're not telling me that you're going to turn around, if you was to be the Prime Minister of this country, and you're going to turn around and say, whatever it was, you just said it's a Sabbath, so I'm not working, and all the rest of it. You wouldn't if there was a matter that needed your attention.
If there was. But the point is, what he's saying is he's not going to the usual completely meaningless cocktail party.
But to be fair, he did say come what may. And so while I agree with the sentiment, again, my view is that there should be some time carved out and he should try to manage that effectively as all executives do. But saying come what may, I think is a
talking
poor judgment.
The Westminster side, there's this relentlessly false manic cycle of you've got to be working, but they're not working. They're just attending meaningless meetings. So I think good for him to say there's an evening a week I'm going to be with my family. When he says come on me, it doesn't mean if there's a threat of a nuclear strike or something. You know, obviously, that's not what he's saying.
I think come what may, we should take it at face value, shouldn't we?
Yeah, come what may within reason, Zia. Just man up on that one. It's a good idea. And it's pro-family and it's pro-Sabbath, and I agree with it.
But, I mean, I find this interesting because there is this whole notion about what the world of work should perhaps look like going forward, because you've got a lot, the Labour Party will talk about the reform of the workers' rights. They'll do a 100-day, well, not 100-day, but they'll do a consultation within the first 100 days with business, looking at how they can change things. I found it quite interesting in Greece. They seem to be going the other way. Their leader there is talking about mandating a 6-day working week, which is a complete opposite. But this whole notion that we should perhaps have more working from home, perhaps 4-day working weeks. Where are you on that one?
Look, my view is that we should allow people to make their own decisions and government should stay out of their way. Look, if people want to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for a certain period of time because they're doing world-changing work and they feel really passionately about it, more power to them. That's their decision to make. If people want to clock up, do a job in which you have a 9 to 5 with a 1 hour lunch break and clock off at 5, and that's totally fine as well. I think legislating in one direction or the other, I think is a very bad idea.
But then are we going to achieve growth? Because, of course, much of the Labour manifesto is predicated on achieving economic growth. Right. So on the one hand, if we're talking about lots more flexibility in the workplace, perhaps shorter working days or fewer working days or whatever, how will that achieve the economic growth?
I'm not into that. I'm saying Monday to Friday afternoon, that's when you do your work. But there's also a time for a day of rest. And one thing we've lost in the endless digital cycle and open all hours is we've lost the concept of a day a week where you don't work. That's absolutely vital, and that is an enhanced productivity, because if you're really tired, as you know, Michelle, sometimes your judgment gets a little bit wonky.
Is he trying to say I'm tired, everybody? Can't even respond to that. But what are you saying then? So you're saying that, yes, the ship sailed now, so Sunday used to be kind of essentially a chill-out day for many. Retail now really changed that. The same as, for example, Boxing Day. Now there's no rest for the wicked if you work
I've
in
argued
retail.
in Parliament for having Memorial Sunday as all the shops closed. You know, it doesn't necessarily enhance production to have a relentless cycle. Sometimes you've got to have a little bit of time off.
What do you think to this notion then? Let's pick Sunday as the day.
Yeah.
Do you think we should try to get back to a situation where we essentially have a day of rest, where things relax, close down?
I think that ship has sailed. I don't think history shows that things regress in that way. Again, though, let me be clear, we already have Saturdays and Sundays. The vast majority of working people in this country do have those days off. But there are people, like, for example, my own parents, to put me through school, both of them worked, sometimes 6-7 days a week. And again, I'm very grateful for them that they did that. I know across this country there are people who do that. That's not for everybody. Some people want to be gig workers. Some people want part-time work. Again, my view is government should stay out of those decisions. Those are ultimately conversations between employers and employees.
I
don't know so much.
I have a question mark in my mind about how honest Keir Starmer actually is. Because you can, or one can kind of just dismiss this Friday 6 o'clock thing and just be like, oh, whatever, or, high five, let's all have more work time. But he said, 6 o'clock on a Friday, and he's been doing this for years, I quote everybody, I will not do a work-related thing after 6 o'clock pretty well, come what may. There are a few exceptions, but that's what we do. But let me remind everybody of this footage that perhaps some of you might be familiar with. Do you remember this? Remember this? #Beergate? Because this footage was filmed through the window. Do you remember it was about the time when everyone was kicking off about Partygate? This was in Durham, where Keir Starmer was filmed through the window having beer. He reckoned that was a work meeting and therefore no rules were broken and so on and so forth. But get this, everybody, that was the 30th of April 2021. What day was it, everybody? Friday. What time was it, everybody? 9 p.m. So then it makes me feel a little bit, there's something here that's not stacking up for me.
Yeah, well, there's two issues going on there, Michelle, before you get too deeply suspicious of all this. The first is Durham is away from home. This is Durham. I believe he
What's that got to do with the
lives
price of fish? He's just said he doesn't work on a Friday night.
Look, the whole point of him not working after 6 is that that's the time he goes home and actually has a meal with his family. That's his absolutely fundamental
He says,
point.
I will not do a work-related thing after 6 o'clock, pretty much, come what may. But when he was trying to get off the hook, when people were accusing him of potentially breaching rules, he was rock-solid adamant that that was a work event.
Yeah.
Both things can't be true. You can't on one hand tell everyone that you don't work after 6 o'clock on a Friday and then simultaneously be insisting to the nation that that was a work event at 9 o'clock on a Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is there are, of all of the things to take issue with Keir Starmer, I think Sir Keir Starmer's policies would be extremely bad for Britain. And this is a man who has 180'd on pretty much every major policy in the last 4 years and has said the only reason he supported Jeremy Corbyn was because he knew he was going to lose. So I think that point about integrity and what Keir Starmer actually stands for, I think that is actually the salient point here.
Yeah, and that is what is going around in my head, because whoever gets elected, whoever becomes the Prime Minister, I think people have had enough now of being messed around, being disregarded, disrespected by the political elite. They want people with integrity that mean what they say and say what they mean. And that there's no confusion or, conflict.
So let me restate, Michelle, if you're really going to insist on this.
I am.
Well, I think you missed. So, as I said, I also don't work on Friday nights and I don't work on Saturdays. But when I'm out of town, when I'm, Maine kissed a buyer from out of town and that kiss burnt Chicago down, when I'm out of town on work, I do work on Fridays, on Friday nights. So I think it says when I'm at number 10 and it's Friday, on the whole, I'm going to be going home at 6. I don't think it's a big deal.